What if everything you've been told about art is wrong? As artists, we're constantly bombarded with rules and expectations about how we should approach our craft. From drawing fundamentals to the idea that certain techniques are cheating, the art world loves to set standards that can sometimes feel stifling. But the truth is, many of these rules are meant to be challenged, questioned, and even broken. Hi, my name's Carrie. Here on Artist Strong, I help self-taught artists with home studios who feel stuck with their art move from wondering what's next to confidently expressing themselves through unique original art. To date, thousands have joined the community. If you feel like gaps in your learning hold you back from making your best art, sign up and watch my workshop called How to Create Art from Your Imagination. It is free for you to watch and a great way to get a taste of my teaching to see if I might be the coach for you. The link is in the description below and here. Today, we're talking about 5 popular beliefs about art that, while they contain some useful insights, are not the be-all and end-all. By sharing these, I hope to offer you the freedom to embrace your own artistic journey, develop your unique voice, and feel confident in the art you create, regardless of whether or not you've mastered every rule out there. Let's dive in and start ignoring the limits that hold us back from making the art we truly want to make. You can't paint until you know how to draw. Translation: without drawing foundations and knowing how to draw realistically, you will never be able to paint well. Implication: you will never be good at painting if you're missing drawing foundations. So what's the point of painting? While this popular belief has a thread of truth, our learning does not need to be siloed to see results, experience growth, and make good art. Working on our foundations and knowing how to draw or paint anything is a major stepping stone in developing and refining your unique voice and evolving style as an artist. It's why there's an entire section in my program, Self-Taught to Self-Confident, dedicated to drawing fundamentals and art theory. But when do you get to graduate from drawing and start painting if that's your preferred medium? When will those foundations be good enough? I'm here to tell you today. I'm 20-something years into studying and still learning new techniques, new approaches to work, and developing new perspectives on art theory. Do not let this idea of meeting a certain standard make you hesitate, slow down, or procrastinate on ideas you have. You can and should do both. Just as rigid rules about drawing foundations can restrict creativity, the concept of cheating in art is another roadblock many artists face. Let's dive into why some so-called shortcuts have actually been embraced by masters throughout history. Blank is cheating. Translation: using blank technique is wrong. Implication: it's cutting corners to use blank. Thus, you aren't really an artist. All of the techniques I hear being discussed this way were used or invented by Renaissance masters. For example, tracing. Called cartoons, tracing was a method of transferring preparatory drawings onto walls or canvases. These elements could even be reused across paintings so that assistants could help with parts of the work. Grid method. Used by Albrecht Dürer, a Northern Renaissance artist, the grid method helped him translate three-dimensional images to a two-dimensional surface. He created one using string and placed it between himself and his model. Projection. Camera obscura, a form of projection, was used during the Renaissance to scale images to a larger surface. Renaissance masters used it to study perspective. And some art historians argue that masters like Vermeer may have used it to achieve the accuracy and detail in his work. Working from photo reference. When the camera was invented, the art world panicked. What would artists do now that a camera could capture family portraits just as painters had for centuries? This helped foster experimentation that led to the Impressionist movement, where artists made more expressive marks and prioritized light falling on the things they observed. While the movement was highly tied to being on site and painting on plein air, some artists also took photographs and used them to inform their art. This includes Monet. The next argument I hear, and often say myself, is you don't want these tools to become a crutch. But why? If we dig deeper, I think the issue is about superiority and being qualified as an artist, as in, you're not really an artist unless you can draw without a grid. Tell that to Albrecht Dürer. I'd love to know of any ahas you've had since starting this video. Let's keep this conversation going and tell me what you're thinking in the comments below. And I'm genuinely curious here. Says who? Many thriving artists hire help. Since the Renaissance, artists have enlisted others to paint parts of works we regard as masterpieces. Is that cheating? Does it make their art any less valuable knowing other people's hands were involved? Instead of the constant and endless judgment about how artists show up in the world, what if we lift each other up and celebrate the fact that we are making art? Similarly, the belief that only those with natural talent or specific skills can be artists is another myth that creates unnecessary barriers. Let's tackle the next misconception that keeps many from embracing their creative potential. I can't draw a straight line, or I only draw stick figures. Translation, I don't have the skills I need to be a successful artist. Implication, I'm not an artist unless... Fill in your blank here. I have so many questions on this one. Why do we have to draw a straight line free-handed? What does it prove? Who will know? What happens if people find out we used a ruler? Why should you know how to do anything in art if you haven't learned how? It's like handing a flute to someone who has never played and asking them to perform a recognizable piece of music. You are an artist. If you're here watching this, I have no doubt you are. There are no prerequisites to owning that label, except maybe making art. But I encourage you to get curious and reflect. How does your inner critic finish the sentence, I'm not an artist unless... Being clear on what triggers us and what we can do to help ourselves show up and share our art will pave the way for both your skill development and the evolution of your unique artist voice. A piece of paper saying you have an art degree, specific skills you've developed, and/or learning in a prescribed way won't change anything about your self-belief as an artist unless you do the work to understand why you feel the way you do. There is no prerequisite or specific skill you must master before making your art. And there will always be new skills to learn, develop, and refine. If being able to draw realistically isn't the full measure of your artistic ability, then what about the idea that artists should be able to paint purely from imagination? Let's explore why this next belief isn't as clear-cut as it seems. Artists draw or paint what they imagine. Translation, artists paint the pictures they have in their mind's eye. Implication, if I can't draw or paint realistically without references, I must not be very good at art. I've heard this phrase so often, I created an entire workshop on the topic, which you can sign up for and watch for free by clicking on the link in the description below. Before I go any further, there are 3 skills we're discussing in this conversation. 1, drawing or painting something already two-dimensional, like working from a photograph or sketch. 2, looking at something 3-dimensional and translating it into 2 dimensions. And 3, translating an idea, visual, or emotion in our mind to canvas or paper. We have so many unreasonable standards in the arts, and this one really gets me. If we can't draw or paint realistically from images or from life, why should we know how to communicate the ideas in our minds? These are 3 skills you should practice if being able to draw or paint anything you want is important to you. If I ask you to draw a dog, in all likelihood, you could draw something I recognize as a dog. The more we develop these 3 skills, the more detailed that dog will become. Finally, let's look at one of the most pervasive pieces of advice artists hear, that you must know the rules before you can break them. Is this always the case, or can you find your voice by breaking the rules first? Know the rules before you break them. Translation, have the skill and understanding of theory to consciously manipulate them in your work. Implication, artists communicate competence when they know the fundamentals and choose to bend the rules. This is an idea I often share as a teacher and generally agree with some caveats. Those I work with often feel they have gaps in their learning, which makes them wonder if it's holding them back from making even better art. Because of this, I focus on filling in those gaps by covering art foundations and fundamentals, as I want you to feel fully confident in your creative decisions. Imagine creating a beautiful abstract landscape. Some rules of perspective are followed, while others are not. The application is inconsistent across the composition. Now, imagine confidently applying the rules of perspective and choosing to ignore a single rule across all elements of your landscape. Which do you think will be the stronger work? I often ask, wouldn't you rather knowingly break tradition and art rules instead of breaking them unintentionally? Which will help you confidently make choices about your art? There are also exceptions to this popular belief. Outsider art is an entire art movement celebrating artists without formal training or exposure to the art world, who found a unique voice and style in their work. Additionally, fellow perfectionists out there can use this extreme standard to actively prevent taking the next steps with their work. You don't need to know all the rules and be an expert in all of them before you begin exploring the ideas you hold in your heart. You can have both. Throughout this conversation, we've explored 5 common beliefs that often hold artists back from embracing their full potential. From the misconception that you must master drawing before painting, to the myth that certain techniques are cheating, these rules create unnecessary pressure and limit creativity. By understanding that many of these beliefs are rooted in tradition rather than necessity, we can challenge them and create art that is true to our unique voices. At the end of the day, there are no hard and fast rules when it comes to creating art. What matters most is the work you're passionate about and the process that brings you joy and fulfillment. Instead of feeling bound by outdated standards, allow yourself the freedom to experiment, make mistakes, and follow your own path. Remember, art is about expression, and every artist's journey is different. So let go of the rules you've been told to follow and trust in your ability to create, learn, and evolve. Whether you use a grid, a reference photo, or a ruler to draw a straight line, what truly matters is that you're making art. And that's what makes you an artist. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's video, and remember, proudly call yourself an artist. Together, we are Artist Strong.